We interrupt regularly scheduled programming with breaking news. Thanks for joining us. I'm Tiffany Murphy. Governor Dan McKee holding a press conference right now about the Washington Bridge and new plans to improve those hectic travel times. Let's take a listen in.
Thanks. Okay. Oh, that's right. I should have noticed that was there.
That's okay.
I'll try not to block it. How's that?
I'll forgive you.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Sabina.
How are you?
Great. Okay, we're good. Well, thank you for everybody being here today, and I'd like to thank, again, the people who are using 195, the people who are impacted by 195, whether they live in the area or do business in the area or have businesses in the area. We know that it's certainly has been a stressful time period for everyone, and that's why we're appreciative that Mayor De Silva's here, and along with Mayor Smiley. So thanks for being here, because those are the communities that are really being impacted primarily, although the entire state is. So I'm joined here today by my Deputy Chief of Staff, Joe Alman, along with Director Peter Albidi, DOT Director and Engineer Expert as well is joining us, along with our Lieutenant Governor, to talk about additional work that's being planned and that will be executed over the next few weeks to help relieve traffic on both the east and west side. It certainly will improve travel time, and as I mentioned, I'm not going to be talking about time as much as I had in the past. I got in trouble on that, but we continue to keep the information flowing to people so that they can kind of plan their schedules and anticipate their schedules, fully knowing that if there's weather or there's accidents, that on a daily basis and an hourly basis, that travel time is impacted. So the priority continues since December 11th is to make sure that we're safe. That was the top priority, and going forward, it's fixing the bridge, and it's also doing it in the right way. Right, so it's all in. We're going to fix the bridge, and we're going to do it right, and we're going to keep people safe while we're doing it as a top priorities. So I'll turn it over now to Joe Alman, who I've designated to work with Director Albidi to coordinate a response across government lines, whether it's in the state or whether it's in the local communities, or it happens to be with our federal delegation that we just had a call with them as well to kind of give them a heads up on what we'd be talking about today. So we know it's a significant disruption, and we're going to continue to work to address that. Joe?
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon, everybody. So as the Governor stated, my role here is to work with Director Albidi and his staff at DOT, along with all our state agencies, and it's to establish a coordinated response to the closing of the bridge and the impact it's having on the commuters, the local traffic, the residents of our adjoining cities, our businesses in those cities, the emergency responders that have to use those routes, and of course our transportation to schools. So in addition to a forensic investigation being conducted by DOT, as we've told you before, the Governor has invited an independent review of all events leading up to the closure of the bridge, and we have engaged the engineering firm of McNary, Bergeron, and Johansson. Going forward, coordination and verification are essential to provide you with accurate information for us to keep the public informed of the ongoing efforts to mitigate the impact of this closure. We're going to continue to keep you updated when DOT's plans to address the bridge issue are confirmed. And you'll hear more from the Director about a time frame to give you that confirmation. Today, Director Albidi and the DOT staff will present you with a plan that traffic engineers have been exploring with guidance and approval of Federal Highway to expand the lanes of travel on both sides of the Washington Bridge. To provide details, I'll turn this over to Director Albidi and his staff to present to you how this plan will be implemented. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here today to help us get the messaging out. We have been working, as Joe Ahmed said, we've been working at DOT continuously to try and improve the conditions, particularly around traffic and the delays that people have been experiencing. This has become our #1 mission. It's moved to the top of our priorities at DOT. And as I've said over and over, we've implemented some modifications to traffic patterns that have moderately helped the situation, but we continue working on ways, and I pledged that we would continue working on ways to find additional improvements that we can make to help make everybody's lives better. To that end, our traffic engineers and other engineers outside of DOT have worked together with the Federal Highway Administration traffic engineers to introduce a new traffic pattern to help relieve the congestion and reduce the travel times on the Washington Bridge. We're creating 3 lanes of traffic in each direction of the bridge. Vehicles will be crossing over in the westbound direction, will be crossing over to the eastbound lanes a little bit earlier than they are now, about 3,000 feet west from where they're crossing right now. But there'll be an additional lane, or a 50% increase in capacity in both directions, both eastbound and westbound. The 3 lanes will consist of 2 10-foot lanes, travel lanes for vehicles, light vehicles and passenger vehicles. And the right-hand lane will be a 11-foot lane with another 1-foot buffer that trucks will be restricted to the right lane travel only. We should be able to do this work and complete the work so that we can open the 6 lanes to traffic. We're looking preliminarily at an 8-week time frame to do this in. Now, let me condition that with the proviso that there are 3 things that could impact that time frame. There's supply chain on materials, concrete barriers, and variable message signs, electronic signs that we'll be using to help implement this traffic change. So there may be supply chain issues that create some variance in that time frame. The weather, snow, rain, these are construction. This is going to require a bit of construction, so weather could impact the time frame, and temperature, because much of what has to go on is a complete restriping of these travel lanes in both directions. The paint that we use is subject to being installed under certain temperature conditions. So these 3 factors could impact the time frame that we have now as an estimate. We've worked shoulder to shoulder with the Federal Highway Administration, traffic engineers, specialists that we talked about several weeks ago, or a couple of weeks ago, with the Federal Highway Administrator. They've worked jointly with our team at DOT and our private consulting company to not only create but also model and devise. And we have the FHWA approval to implement this traffic change as we have it designed. And as Joe said, this has been work that we've done in parallel with all of the other work that we have going on that's forward-looking in terms of the reconstruction efforts that will be needed in order to be implemented to put a new and improved bridge back in place on the westbound lanes. That work is progressing, and as we have with this and other issues, we'll be reporting out on that as the results of that and our decisions on that are made. And we have, at the same time, the forensic analysis that is being conducted at the same time. And likewise, we will roll out whatever news we have on that as we get more information on both of those other issues. So we see this as a very positive step forward. We're doing it as part of our own ongoing effort to make things better for the people who are realizing time delays and constraints on their travel. And we're trying to make that easier, and we have 100% of our attention focused on that. So with that, I'll yield to...
Lieutenant Governor to translate.
Oh, yes, Lieutenant Governor.
Good afternoon. It is important for us to share this message, especially talking about safety in the languages that our residents speak. So I'm going to have the message in Spanish. Fortunately, I cannot do Portuguese, but maybe Mayor De Silva can help us with that. Quiero empezar por expresarle a todos ustedes mis más sinceras solidaridad con todos los que han sido afectados con esta situación del puente, el tráfico en el puente. Nuestras principales preocupaciones ha sido en mantener la seguridad de las personas y ayudar a los trabajadores y a las empresas a seguir poder siendo su labor y su trabajo. Estamos introduciendo un patrón nuevo de tráfico que va a aliviar la congestión y reducir el tiempo de viaje en el puente del Washington Bridge. Crearemos 3 carriles de circulación en los lados este y oeste del puente. Va a haber 3 carriles ahora en cada lado este y oeste. Esto aumentará la capacidad del puente por un 50%. Estos carriles serán más estrechos, así que tienen que tener cuidado, saber que van a ser más estrechos, y que los camiones y los camiones de remolque y cualquier vehículo pesado va a estar restringido al carril de la derecha. Si usted maneja un camión, usted va a estar restringido al carril de la derecha. El lado este es estructuralmente lo suficientemente fuerte para poder soportar este cambio, y tenemos un análisis hecho de una empresa independiente. Podremos hacerlo en 8 semanas, y la mayor parte de las construcciones se realizarán por la noche. Es muy importante que sepan que, como acaba de decir el director, esto va a depender de los materiales que lleguen a tiempo, que no haya ninguna tardía en la llegada de los materiales, de la temperatura, ya que para poder pintar otra vez las líneas, la pintura requiere que haya un nivel de temperatura adecuada, y asegurarnos que no tengamos ninguna situación tardía por el tiempo. Así que básicamente queremos que sepan que vamos a aumentar por un 50% la capacidad del tráfico en el puente, y vamos a tener 3 carriles, 3 en el lado este y 3 en el lado oeste.
Thanks, Governor, and Colonel Weaver, thank you for being here as well, and your staff and the troopers that are out actively trying to manage this very difficult situation. So thank you to you and helping put this scenario together as well. So we'll take questions if there are any questions of anyone up here, and if not, then we'll.
Why is it so long to do the 3 lanes? Because, come on, you want to tell me that you don't have a contingency plan in place for years that something can happen to that bridge? And for you, Governor, why are you taking ownership that something that happened on the Gina Redondo administration? Because that bridge is broken for years. I mean, don't take the lie that it is given to you. That bridge was broken for years.
Yes.
The features to prove it.
So I think that, again, the analysis of what happened is in progress, and as has been mentioned by Joe, we have our own engineers working out of department administration. We'll find out what the story is, and then we'll provide that to everyone. I can just tell you that my focus is exactly what I said. We're going to fix the bridge. We're going to do it right, and we're going to keep people safe. And then all the information that you're talking about, let that roll out as it is available to us. But with speculating on anything right now is not where I'm going to be.
Director Alvini, do you have any projections for how much travel time is going to save people to open this new lane?
So the actual travel time will depend on a number of factors. We know that adding 50% capacity to what is there right now is going to save a considerable amount of time. But depending upon the time of day and the traffic conditions, weather or accident conditions, that'll vary, right? We do know that there will be an overall savings in both directions, and that's what this is aimed toward. Another factor that will play in, of course, over time is that there'll be a very apparent savings in time with the existing traffic counts that we have going over. But as the travel times get better, some people that are doing diversions currently through neighborhoods in the two mayors' communities is going to divert back onto the main highway. So that will add some variables to it also. But it'll also be an indication that we'll be solving a lot of the congestion issues in the neighborhoods that are surrounding the 195 corridor.
Are you essentially narrowing all of the existing lanes on the eastbound span? And if it's more complicated than that, can you explain and maybe walk us through what we're seeing here on this graph?
So what you're seeing is an actual computer simulation of the resultant traffic flows. As you can see, traffic is moving freely in both directions. And if you look at the on-ramps that are coming in from the expressway, from 114, and from Pawtucket Avenue on-ramps, and also the Broadway on-ramps, you'll see that not only is the traffic moving more freely on 195, but also from those ramps onto the highway. So this is going to relieve a lot of that. There will be two 10-foot lanes and one 11-foot lane with an extra foot on the side of it that is intended on the right-hand lane to be trucks will be restricted to that lane while all passenger vehicles on the other two. We will be, in our assessment, along with the FHWA traffic and safety folks, we've determined that we'll be implementing a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit through this area, and we'll be working with the state police. We already are working with the state police to coordinate enforcement.
And right now, if you are just joining us here on ABC 6, that is RIDOT Director Peter Alviti. We've also heard from Governor Dan McKee today, updating us on the ongoing Washington Bridge crisis. You may recall back on December 11th, the bridge was shut down immediately because of a critical failure of original bridge components from 1960. Now, if we backtrack this summer, the bridge passed inspection, and then just a few months later, it was shut down. And in shutting the bridge down, it has caused a lot of headaches, not only for commuters, but businesses in East Providence, drivers in East Providence, residents there, as folks try and find alternate routes rather than taking the bridge. So the main point that we've just learned from this press conference at the Capitol at this hour is that over the next 8 weeks, an additional lane will be implemented both on the east and westbound side. That'll take 8 weeks to do so. Alviti said that it might take longer. It's all due to weather. Potentially, it could be impacted by the temperature, rain, snow, even supply chain issues as well. But his hope at this point is that that will alleviate traffic and the ongoing headache for commuters. Now, I think it's also interesting to mention, if you didn't listen in right at 1:30 when the governor started speaking, he did acknowledge that he will not be talking about timing. He said, I quote, "I got in trouble for that in the past." And you might recall that is when the governor said it's only 10 to 15 minutes. And we know for a fact that it has definitely cost drivers and commuters over the Washington Bridge much longer than 10 to 15 minutes. So he was also asked another question about what happened to the bridge. Again, going back to how it was able to pass inspection this summer and then was abruptly shut down in December. And he said, right now we are focusing on the bridge. We're going to do it right, and I'm not going to speculate. I will mention before we return you back to regularly scheduled programming that the governor did say that right now he has hired an independent engineering firm to take analysis of what happened and is in the process right now. And once that is released, he will release it to Rhode Islanders. And I know many Rhode Islanders are anxiously awaiting those results. Of course, we will continue to cover this story coming up right here on ABC 6 News at 4 o'clock. Right now, we'll return you to regularly scheduled programming.